Hello, everybody. Hello, Caroline. And today also we are very blessed to have Caroline here. So in this podcast of No Visible Bruises, so Caroline is our teacher here, and she's teaching us different new things. And also, we would like to warmly and very respectfully welcome Caroline. So Caroline is a wonderful mom, and she takes care of the kids and everything so nicely. I think all through this weekend and everything, and she gives us this valuable time on a Monday, especially. And she's a brain spotting, how to say, practitioner, trauma informant, and she learns, and then it's like she's teaching us also, and she's helping a bunch of people on a regular basis. So anybody can contact her and get this wonderful wisdom and guidance and help from her. So Caroline, we are so glad to have met you, and then here you are here. So what will you be teaching us today?
Amazing. Yes, thank you so much, Yogi Sanjivana, for welcoming me back again. And hello, everybody, to today's podcast of No Visible Bruises. So today we're going to be exploring micro traumas and also how those can potentially affect like sports performance or like music performance and other styles of performance, like even how you show up in your daily life, and how micro traumas can compound and impact into the physiology of your nervous system and create behavioral blocks for you. We're also going to be exploring into that with the brain spotting concept of attunement. So whether or not you're externally attuned to desired outcomes, or whether or not you're internally attuned to finding that performance within you. And also discussing a little bit about what David Brand, the founder of brain spotting, has discovered around what he calls it's the slump effect. So he calls it the slump cycle. So essentially, when you get a micro trauma, and how that can then compound into a negative spiraling cycle for that. So that'll be really interesting to explore that today with you.
Okay. Uh-huh.
How's that feel to explore this?
Yeah, wonderful. Caroline, please, if you can, please tell us what is a micro trauma.
Micro trauma, trauma, generally speaking, we kind of identify it into sort of like two categories, which would be a big T trauma and a little T trauma. So big T trauma, obviously, you say like huge events like wars or other kind of accidents, things that are very obviously something that is going to have a physical, psychological, emotional impact on somebody. So those are big T traumas. Little T traumas would be concept, like as you say, sort of slightly more minor falls or trips, or other kind of ailments or injuries that are still going to have a traumatic effect, but they're not quite so as obvious potentially. So with the concept of trauma, it's essentially, as Dr. Gabor Mate says, trauma isn't what happened to you. Trauma is what happens inside of you because of what happens to you. And that so when we understand that concept of how we respond and react and relate to the trauma, and that's where, as you say, we get these internal blocks and systems inside our nervous system to be able to protect us moving forward. It's always a survival instinct mechanism. So that's kind of like the difference. And so when we're looking at micro traumas specifically, especially if we were to consider, so say for instance ice skating, because I know that Dr. David Grand actually formulated brain spotting out of EMDR with working with a competitive figure skater. I don't remember offhand her name, but so what he was working with her ability to perform a triple loop somersault. And she'd done it. She hadn't actually done it. She'd always kind of hit the ground, hit the ice hard, hit the ice hard, hit the ice hard every time she'd done it. And obviously this kind of repetitive micro trauma, or I mean, it's a physical, pain, obviously hitting the ice. We've all tripped and fallen, it's hurt. But by because of the nature of wanting to be able to perform and at that high level, this figure skater had obviously gone past the point of where her nervous system had been a stretch and actually gone into the strain, into the shutdown of her nervous system to keep performing, keep pushing, keep going harder, keep going stronger to try to get the technique down. But what has happened in her physiology within her brain is called an AMPA receptor. So what happens when you get these micro traumas, you get an actual emotional connection to the environment as well. So it sort of like basically hijacks your prefrontal cortex and just takes you directly to a reaction response where it's going to say, no, you're not doing it, we're just not going to get you there, because every single time we've tried to do this before, it's landed and it's hurt and we've got pain and it's actually injuring our body. So it's a mechanism designed for your body to protect itself. So by utilizing brain spotting, what Dr. David Grant that did there was finding that optic nerve connection into where that felt sensation was within the neocortex. It helped to relieve the trauma that was attached to the pain of not quite getting the technique right and actually stumbling. And then once this figure skater had actually been able to identify and process all of those micro traumas that had previously been like, well, I've fallen 1,000,001 times on the ice. How could that possibly be the reason? But there is exactly the reason. And so again, as you say, it's by understanding that small innocuous thing that potentially you would think wasn't the reason, it very well can be. And that's that root cause resolution to find that original trauma point and then resolve it. So does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. Wonderful.
For the micro trauma
Okay.
and how that works and how that impacts. Yeah. And again, as you say, and that's like, so physiologically, when then a person that's been experienced to that kind of environment, like your subconscious will is always looking for triggers to keep you safe, right? And so then it's like irrelevant of whether or not it's a different like ice skating arena, if there's still the ice there, it's still creating that like anxiety, that block, like that pull back within the nervous system, say, oh, I don't want to do that, it hurts. So going into what the concept of the slump cycle is, if that's okay.
Sure.
So as you say, the performance problem or failure occurs, and we assume that it is the athlete that's the problem. And then quite often, like when you kind of like feel like it's your fault, you kind of get a confusion or an embarrassment or shock, even sometimes, like, that can also trigger kind of like the slump cycle. And then adaptivation, then you get an activation of an adaptive relationship to self. Okay, so when you feel like you should be able to do something but you're not able to do it, as you say, that can create that internal kind of self-resentment, self-judgment, lack of compassion for oneself, and often self-directed anger as well. So, and then this adaptation, this new behavior towards your own attunement and attachment to yourself then feeds in to like conscious attempts of trying to be able to fix the problem and trying to try harder, as we said, like, you just keep pushing harder and pushing harder, pushing your nervous system into the pain part again, so it just compounds the trauma even further. And then what happens then is you get into that overthinking part of the cycle where you're consciously preoccupied with trying to figure out the problem, and this can often reinforce negative belief patterns about one's personal self, which actually again compounds the problem. And then like increasing physical and mental tension and nervousness. So the body and the somatic armory activate, and become observable. Like you'll actively see now that a person is tipping into that sympathetic nervous system response every time they're going into that environment. And it can be like, and then again, as you say, then you can get that external blame and shame and criticism as well, which again internalizes. And then quite often as well, we'll get disrupted concentration, which activates early childhood adaptations as well. Okay, so again, like your subconscious is always looking for familiarity, things to find that it knows so that it can feel safe. And again, so if you're getting these other traumas in adult life, your subconscious is going, where else have we seen this? Where else have we had to deal with this? And if you've had adaptations in younger life as well, it will bring up all of those traumas as well. So which is where it builds and compounds that effect. And then which then again goes back up to the top of the cycle, which again can more negatively affect performance. So does that make sense in how the slump cycle works? And how, again, not being conscious and aware and mindful of how that works in your subconscious and your physiology about why your body is stopping you from doing it, can, become a real mental health issue, especially for performers. And quite often, there's that drive for someone that's looking to perform to say that they're fine, they feel all right, they're very okay, they're on the ball, so that they don't get that other kind of criticism or judgment, or don't get selected for the team because they're like, oh, maybe you've got mental health issues. So then again, quite often you'll get that like cognitive dissonance break about who your identity is and actually how you feel, and so speaking again about that sort of attunement now, as you say, so I was on the training with with Ruth Charles, a brain spotting consultant, last week, and she was speaking about her freedom to perform technique. And it's really about diving deeply into that root cause resolution, as we said before, in that slump cycle, where a trauma will tally back to potentially childhood traumas or even near in utero traumas. Like if, for instance, if one you were in when you were being made as a baby, then potentially, if your mother had traumas as well, that as a fetus would connect into you, and potentially also as well like ancestral traumas. And so by looking at how as a human species we have as infants, we have to co-regulate and attune to our primary nurturer, our primary nurturing figure, and hopefully, especially very, very profoundly within the first 12 months of having that deep attunement with somebody actually servicing your needs. Because I mean, we all know a baby, as soon as it needs something, it's happy to cry. It has no worry about like wanting to find its needs met, right? And as you say, I mean, we're all those beautiful creatures. Each of us have our needs that need to be met. But conversely, if your primary caregiver is distant from you and not coming towards that to co-regulate that discomfort within you to be able to sustain your needs, that internal attunement will externalize and become externally focused. So as Ruth Charles very beautifully explains that about her unfortunate not unfortunate, but just difficulties with regards to having been adopted in young childhood and not having those needs met at the time when they were needed. And so her attunement got further and further away because it was wherever her primary caregiver was, creating that abandonment issue within herself and abandoning herself, and so externalizing her worth. So that's how that attachment can work, and that's also as well really kind of interesting to see with performance and like especially like sports performance. If you feel like your worth is attached to something external and far away, especially like medals or something, then it can create that kind of like materialistic worth element, like I'm only good if I win sort of thing, and that can be very kind of a difficult space to be in, if that's a core self-belief around the value of you as you are, as beautiful and whole as you are as a person, just as that, you know? And so this technique is looking to bring the worth element away from that attunement that's external, and find the internal attunement as well, so that you can actually find those kind of self-fulfilling needs that need to be met, you know, bringing that self-soothing back into yourself and finding your own internal desire to perform, rather than it needing to be to win, like, you know, because we all want to be able to perform to our own best abilities, whatever that is in the moment, right? And so just by changing that concept of how your attunement to your self-value, it is really, really beautiful concept of, and then integrating the brain spotting into finding those inevitably pre-verbal wounds. And it's very, very beautiful. I've experienced it myself, to kind of, with brain spotting, actually experience those pre-verbal memories, because you know our subconscious remembers everything, like all of our time, right? And so it's very kind of, it's very interesting to kind of feel back into those sensations before they have words and meanings potentially, but they have still, you know, protective mechanisms, you know. And it's really, it's very, very powerful shift to be able to release those traumas and those blocks. Yeah. So so does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Have you
So,
got any questions that have come up? Yeah.
so anybody can go through, not only athletes, right? Like from little children onwards, even big
Yeah. I mean, as you say, I mean, we're speaking about athletes because
athletes.
it's a
Yeah, sure.
concept that's easy to kind of visualize.
Sure.
But again, you know, like, there are a lot of people out there that have had difficult attachments in childhood for whatever reason, whether it be big T trauma, little T trauma, or whatever. You know, and about giving ourselves some compassion with regards to, you know, your nervous system did what it needed to in order to survive, and if that meant externalizing your attachment further away, then that was what happened. But ultimately looking to bring that attachment back into yourself so that you can reconnect to yourself, and so you can find that self-empowerment and self-leadership moving forward. You know, it's very profound, and what it actually helps you to do is to connect back into that flow state, that sense of creativity and curiosity and calmness, compassion for yourself and others, you know, because that's actually kind of like, the flow state is really where we're all designed to be at all times anyway. And when you realize that you've actually come out of a flow state, that's when you're like, oh no, I've got behavioral patterns that are trying to protect me, but I want to get back into flow state. You know, so you kind of like, as they were exploring it in there, talking about how they've been working with their teams, there's like, they're the athletes can notice when they come back out of flow state. And obviously as well, when you're in sort of like competitive sport, you know, that second of hesitation can mean the difference between winning and losing, right? And that's where that hesitation is. It's like, if your body is going, oh, I don't know, like the last 100 times that we did this movement for this skill set, it hurt, and that second of hesitation will then compound that, like, or then you get hurt again. So it's sort of like that, as we said, that slump cycle negatively. Whereas when you feel that you're in the flow state, if like your body kind of is doing it naturally and hasn't got that resistance moving forward, then it feels more comfortable, and you're more likely to achieve the outcome that you're looking for as well. So yeah, so it's just, and it's so, and they so would it be okay if we did sort of a little bit of an experiential with regards to sort of reconnecting into the self-attunement?
And now?
Yeah, if you're up for
Yeah,
it.
sure. I like these things. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, and I love sharing it. When I'm like, I've learned it. I'm
Thank you. It's wonderful.
like, amazing. Okay, so this time around, what we're going to do is utilize the felt senses of our hands to be able to feed information to our brain. Okay, and so just if you can, if it's comfortable for you, to just gently using your hands, if you can get your hands onto your skin, if not, don't worry, but if you can get your hands onto your skin, just by your waist, just as you're finding just the top of your hip bones. Can you feel the hip bones? And again, just allowing your body to sort of move around and give your body permission to move about. And just feeling into your hands. If you want to, like, just gently allow your gaze to soften or close your eyes if it's safe for you to do so, and you're not driving or operating heavy machinery watching this podcast. And then just gently just feeling into your hands, just allowing your hands just to feel into the very top of your hip bones there, just feeling what it feels like to have those hip bones there right at the top, and allowing your felt sensations of your fingers feed that information back, feeling what it feels like for your fingers to be touching the skin around your belly as well. Does it feel cold or hot? Or just noticing that, allowing yourself to really connect into that felt sensation there, noticing that top of your hip bone there. And then just allowing your hands to move around a little bit, just staying nice at the top of that pelvic bowl. We're not looking to go too far down. We're just sort of noticing how it feels to feel the very top of our pelvic bowl, and visualizing the bowl that is your pelvis as well, and your hip bones there. And just feeling into that, just allowing your hands to just explore what it feels like around your middle there. And then even around the back a little bit, just really getting curious with your hands, with that felt sensation, to feel back with that information, that sensory information that you're getting. Yeah, whatever feels comfortable. So, and then just bringing your attention there into the bowl, and just feeling into that sensation, and just noticing that again, whatever comes up, allowing it to come up, to come out, and come through those feelings. There's no right or wrong in these feelings. We're just getting curious about how we feel feeling this bowl, this pelvis. And then if we want to just gently connect into the center of the pelvis, just really connecting into the center of how it feels to feel centered into the pelvis there, into the middle of that pelvic bowl. Really noticing your body. Noticing how it feels to notice your body as well. Yeah. And just allowing your concentration there to really connect deeply into that center of yourself. Feeling into that groundedness of that center of yourself. Feeling into that connectedness of that center of yourself. And gently noticing how you feel there. Just connecting into that. Noticing if you find it easy to connect into it, or if you find it other ways to connect into it. Noticing how connected you feel to that sensation there in the middle of your bowl, grounded into the base of your pelvis. Just noticing that. Really giving yourself the opportunity to feel into that, connecting back into yourself. And then gently, if it feels okay, for you to now connect into the middle of your chest. So completely in the middle of your chest, not forward or backwards, not left or right, but really in the middle of your chest, imagining a tennis ball size center right in the middle of your chest, directly above the center of your palm. Just going straight up there and connecting into the middle of your chest there. And if this feels difficult to connect into this part of you, that's okay. You can connect back into the middle of your bowl. But as we're exploring tuning back into ourselves, we're just looking to see if we can connect into the center of our chest there. Gently connecting into that. Noticing how it feels to connect into the center of your chest. Noticing how it feels in the middle of you. Directly in the center of you there, connected directly above the center of your bowl, into the center of your chest. Noticing that sensation there. Noticing that, what you notice. Again, as we've said, if it feels difficult to connect into this part, it's okay to connect back into the center of your bowl. And connecting into your chest there. And allowing yourself to really feel into the center of your chest there, right in the middle, that straight line from your pelvic bowl into the middle of your chest. Just noticing how that feels. And then connecting back into the center of your pelvic bowl again. Maybe if you want to feel your hands again around the top of your pelvis, just noticing that. Noticing how it feels to be connected back into the middle of your bowl. Allowing yourself to feel into that. And this time, this straight line is going to go straight through the middle of your chest and up to past the top of your head, feeling it at the very top of your head, up at your crown. Noticing how it feels to feel at the top of your crown, just at the top of your head there. Noticing to bring your awareness to that part of you, that straight line that goes straight through from your pelvis, through the center of your chest, up to the top of your crown. Noticing coming back into this felt sensation there, feeling into the top of your crown. Again, giving your body permission to move if it wants to move, so you can feel into the center of that. Just feeling at the top of your head there. Noticing if there's any other tension in your body where it feels different to be feeling into this straight line. And there's no right or wrong in this. We're just gently getting curious, feeling into this attunement into the center of ourselves. And if this feels too difficult, you can connect back into the center of your chest, or again, the center of your bowl. Feeling that straight line straight in the middle of you. And just gently feeling the top of that crown there. Feeling what it feels like to be at the top of that straight line connected into your head. And now bringing that awareness directly into the middle of your brain. That straight line just directly into the middle of your brain, really noticing how it feels to feel in the middle of your brain. Again, not forward or backwards, not left or right, just directly in the middle of your brain with that straight line connected all the way. And again, if this feels difficult to find this, go back to either of the other sensations and reconnect into those where it felt more comfortable. And just gently, as we're connecting directly into that center middle of the brain, I'd like to ask you to just open your eyes and just notice where you're looking as you're connecting directly into the center of your brain. And just noticing that gaze spot there where you're looking directly connected into the center of your brain. Or alternatively, if it's a space at the top of your head or your chest or in your pelvic bowl, wherever you're feeling most connected, noticing that connection where you're looking there. And just continue to look at that gaze spot there that you've bookmarked, just connecting into the felt sensation right in the middle of your brain, if that's where you are. Just noticing that bookmark and keeping your vision and your gaze at that bookmarked spot, at that gaze spot. Just noticing with your peripheral vision the rest of the room around you and your relation to the rest of the room around you. Noticing how far things are, how close things are as you look directly at that gaze spot, and utilizing your peripheral vision to notice the things around you. Notice how it feels to look with your peripheral vision. Noticing what's around you here. Noticing your relation to what those things are, and knowing that you are yourself connected to those and connected to yourself in the center of yourself. Feeling the center of yourself in connection to how far or near those things are. Just gently noticing that for a few more moments. Noticing how you feel in relation to those things around you. Again, there's no right or wrong in any of that. Just gently noticing what we notice. Amazing. And then just gently, when you're ready, just relaxing your eyes again and giving yourself the opportunity to have a nice big deep breath in. And exhale, and as you exhale, just relaxing back into the room. Mm. And how did that feel to do that experiential there with connecting into your center of attunement?
Yeah, it was amazing. Like you feel the
Yeah,
connection from part by part.
yeah, yeah.
And when
No,
you say
definitely.
like in the middle of the brain, you can feel like the sensations inside the skull and all this.
Yeah, 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 definitely. And as you say, that internal attunement, that's your center of balance there again, as you say. So when you can connect into how that feels to feel in that center of yourself, and then you can like relational to how everything else feels around you. Yeah. And it's just really nice to be able to connect into yourself in that. So, and again, when we can connect into ourself, that's the repair of attunement to yourself
Mm.
as well, connecting into that. And again, I don't know whether or not like potentially anybody has found it difficult to connect into that, and that's okay. You know, I mean, this was all brand new to you then, and just being noted, just gently noticing that it's brand new to connect into yourself and how you've maybe connected to other things more so, and that's okay. Yeah. Have you got any other questions that have come
No,
up
no,
from
no,
that?
no. It was very nice. Thank you.
Yeah. And again, I really enjoy utilizing the gaze spot there with that practice, with that exercise, to be able to also utilize the peripheral vision. And again, I mean, obviously I want to be mindful of people that potentially are less visually impaired. And so, you know, they can still feel into the center of themselves, you know, and they can, and obviously they'll be more aware of being able to feel in and attune to what is around them, just because that's the way that our nervous system again utilizes other senses to be able to heighten and support ourselves. So it's still something that people can do even if they can't, not able to actually visually see. Like, so, you know, just connecting into that felt sensation within yourself. So yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So and I also enjoy that, like with brain spotting, you can also utilize that gaze spotting where you can feel that felt sensation, as you said, where we were connecting into the middle of the brain, or ultimately if people were still connecting into different areas where we connected in, to find that gaze spot to be able to help them connect into that part of themselves with that balance as well. You know, so that's another opportunity, another skill set for people to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to connect into that gaze spot and really allow myself to feel into that attunement as well. Yeah.
Caroline, please explain
So,
more that the gaze spot, right? Like you
yeah.
gaze. Yeah, please.
Mm.
No, no, no. Please.
Yeah. So again, so the concept is where we look affects how we feel. Okay. So because of the fact that your optic nerve connects into your subconscious and all of your memory banks, where you're looking will connect into different neural pathways to be able to connect into the felt sensation of your body, so that you can bring up those sensations. So and again, conversely, so as we said, where you look affects how you feel, but again, how you feel can affect where you look. So it flips, like, so if you're feeling despondent or full of shame or self-critical, quite often vision will invariably take those optic pointers that are quite often noticeably lower, um, to because it's just where your body naturally wants to sort of sink, to kind of close down, to shut off, to disengage, to be able to protect yourself while you're processing, um, and feeling like a little bit not as high energy. So you know, so it's just really really curious somatically to notice that body language. I mean, because the way that we communicate, I know that everybody knows that, you know, body language is like 93% of the way that we communicate with each other, whereas the actual verbal things that we say is only about 7% of the actual information that's processed from when we communicate with each other. Like, you know, and it's all sorts of different things. It's body language, it's the openness, expressionism, it's also the pitch and tone and speed and volume of your voice, and as well, you know, and also as well, depending on the emotional state of a person, will also depict how they receive that information, and they can potentially also hear different things to what you've actually thought you've projected as well. So the information received can be very different. Again, it's about perspective and about understanding what you're hearing and what your subconscious is looking for in that trigger alert in the amygdala, to sort of go, what are the parts of this information that's really important that I need to be aware of, that to be able to make sure I'm safe, you know, and potentially also sometimes completely hear something very different to what was given as well. You know, so it's actually very, very, very interesting that I was on a training, and somebody had said so they'd actually said you're born looking like your parents and you pass looking like your decisions, right? So this is actually the phrase, right? You're born looking like your parents and you pass looking like your decisions. But I've heard you're born looking like a parrot and pass looking like a seed. Like, and I like, what? Again, it's just, I mean, communication, like, over, but I mean, both are pretty awesome concepts to hold, right? But yeah, it's just in, and then it was in the chat, I was speaking with somebody and they were like, no, that's not what they said, and I was like, are you sure? So again, you know, it can create that kind of like disparity and understanding. So it's very important that we connecting with ourselves and understand whether or not we've received it the way that it was intended, and or if you know, how we feel with that, and also potentially, you know, as a societal species as well, that's one of the real compounding elements of why it is important to have connection and have other people around you to be able to reflect back your understanding, so that we're all on the same page, and that you've not got something completely like maladapted in you, like completely had something different. So yeah, you know, that's why it's also really important to cast back and reflect, and to check in with things as well. Yeah. So and again, with that attachment as well, it's also really, really important to be able to, you know, have sufficient self-value and compassion for what you actually heard, to be able to project it out, to be able to explore it with other people so that they can learn from you as well. And you know, and whereas obviously, you know, if with a person that's been through trauma, often they can, if they're in that slump cycle, often they can be second guessing themselves to the point where they're not even prepared to actually say what they've seen, you know. And so yeah, and it can be very difficult to kind of notice if someone's people pleasing, because, you know, again, going back to if you've got that external attachment value, then quite often, like, the adaptations that will disconnect you from finding that flow state, that center self state, would be people pleasing behavior. You know, even if you for yourself you want to say no, but you're saying yes because you want to be able to stay within the circle, or like just not look like you're being a problem, or like, because again, your value isn't about who you are, your value is about their perception of who you are, you know. So that would be something that like breaks your inner connection. So, and again, like trying hard, so like staying rigid and serious around key issues, like kind of and being overly strong can also create like self-abandonment, like, again, as we've discussed, like pushing yourself past your nervous system stretch into a nervous system break, and creating a disconnect there, and also like being in a hurry can also create fear and uncertainty as well, like not giving yourself specific time to practice and repeat and reflect, like just rushing through it, that can create an abandonment, because like even though your consciousness can kind of go, well, this is the blueprint, this is what we want, like, you know, for your body and your muscles and your skeletal frame and your muscle memory and everything to kind of build up the repetition into that, it takes a lot longer. You know, for instance, even if you like, the easiest way I get to describe this is an architect draws up the blueprints for a new house or a block of flats or whatever, but then it takes 2 to 3 years for the actual building to become,
Building.
you know, and just allowing yourself the understanding of how long that process is going to take, and the discipline and everything. So being in a hurry can also like create that break within yourself. And also perfectionism, curiously enough, even though it's perfectionism is an interesting kind of behavioral tactic, especially again, as we say, in performance, because like you will be massively, you know, critiqued if you aren't perfect, especially like if when you consider music and delivering a musical melody. Like if you hit one bum note, everyone's like, oh, I heard that, and then, you know, but like you do all of the rest of the music perfectly, it's just that one little thing, and it's like, oh. So there's that element of needing to be perfect on all of the whole sequence of notes, which is like, it's hugely demanding really when you think about it, right? Like to be completely perfect for that whole period of time. And so, you know, and again, that can also, again, if you've got that external validation sequence where someone's pulling you up negative for that one tiny little minute maladaptive nature of that note, whereas the rest of it's not being praised, you know, instead of being able to create an attachment within yourself of enjoying the rest of the 99% that was amazing, you know, that if you've got that external validation, then the entire thing was all down to that single bum note, you know, irrelevant of all of this, you know, that's where your focus is going to go. And so then you'll internalize negative self-talk again, you know. So it's about understanding ways to be compassionate around that, and understanding that perfectionism can also be like a masking behavior as well. So it's so, you know, life is and does have some, you know, errors in it, and it's about being compassionate with ourselves in those moments as well. And so yeah, so, and this but what this actually does, like when we've got those kind of behaviors within us, what it does is it gives us a in our brain body network, what it does is it armors us, and it affects actually our fascia, like the fluidity of information that goes through in your body, and it holds that bracing. So like again, if you've had a negative feedback, the next time you come to that environment, there's a hesitation, there's that block, it's like that bracing that's like, oh, am I going to get a negative input back again, you know, make me feel bad about it, like, so. And then it's that self-fulfilling slump cycle. It's like, oh, I've got that hesitation has already kicked in. So yeah, so really what we want to be able to do, utilizing the brain spotting and coming back into that center of self, is to release those adaptations and reclaim the gifts of being able to be in flow, you know, be held in compassion for minor errors, and so that then, and pains and traumas, and so that we can process them, so that we can move forward even though they were in our past. It's not something that our nervous system is looking constantly to protect and holding tight onto, you know. Excuse me. So yeah, so the concept really would be to be finding attuned empathy, like even though you will still need to have discipline and consistency, it's not about like pushing stronger, harder discipline. It's about like moving in with flow into that, and finding resilience and determination within yourself, so that you have that attuned internal desire to move forward rather than that external pressure to perform. And then also as well, you'll be able to connect more into the visionary of you, right? So, and this one is a bit of an interesting, like, again, so the visionary concept is about your identity and your self-worth in relation to your identity, like, you know, because again, if you've ever tracked through into like the Olympic sports, for instance, you know, there's quite a lot of people that have spoken about, like, when they haven't been chosen for the team, they've actually completely really had a very difficult time mentally and emotionally around not being picked, because their identity was so imbued with being on the team, being able to go to the Olympics. If you don't actually then get picked because your external worth is, I must be there, you know, it can be very, very difficult to kind of re-find who you are in that moment. Whereas when we can connect into that self-attunement, you know that you're completely valuable and valid and worthy for simply being a human being, and the projects and the experiences that you look to go and choose to have are something that you want to choose moving forward, but your identity isn't wrapped up in those. Your identity is still you, who you are as a compassionate person that's full of love and curiosity and kindness. And so, yeah, does that make sense? Like,
Sure,
how
sure.
it can how many people actually get there, because I know I had my identity very much wrapped up with being a bus driver. Like, my identity was my job.
Sure.
Like, I'm a bus driver first and foremost, and then I'm this and this and this. But you know, we're not the things that we've done or the things that we have. We are the compassion and the way that the vision that we have for ourselves moving forward, and the way we want to interact with each other. You know, so, and then also, yeah, so, and the sensitive aesthetics, I think I've covered that as well. You know, just so being able to connect into like how we want to be moving forward. So rather than what you are or have. So yeah, so in developing these 5 gifts in an unadaptive internal environment can offer the preconditions for entering into the flow state. So, and again, as we said, like utilizing that brain spotting in the gaze spot and connecting into that sensation is how you then connect into the flow state, getting back into your internal balance. So yeah. So yeah, so it was really, really interesting training, and I'm really pleased to have been able to bring the concept of finding flow into performance. So yeah. And have you got any other questions?
Uh, so yeah. So how to say, like, when we were doing sports and all, like, because the coach and all just like pushes you, right? Uh, and then either you fail or you succeed. And there were instances like when I was also not chosen to the team, I did my best performance, but I felt really low, no, because like, and I was like really like I could not understand why, even because I was giving it like 100 or even more percent of, even if I was sick, I was like really practicing hard. Even I should take like glucose and stuff, and then like go for practices and have like glucose, be not like steroids or anything, but because like really into it, no.
Trying
So
to get yourself into peak physical performance. Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so, and I was just a child at that time, no, like a kid of just maybe like 15 years or something like that. And so
Yeah.
uh, these concepts are not there at that time, right? And especially in school sectors and all, we don't have these kind of things. In surely like in the other countries, no. Uh, so it can do a lot of damage to a child or like any other sportsman or anybody, right? For that matter.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, as you say, I mean, again, understanding the concept of those micro traumas and those little t traumas that we think should be innocuous, but they're not, you know, and just giving yourself a little bit of compassion around that. And it's, you know, again, being chosen to be the one that represents the school or whatever, or to be on the team is, you know, I mean, it's a societally, it's a very complicated, convoluted kind of concept just generally, isn't it? Like the winning and the losing, and but ultimately looking to find that attunement within yourself to be able to give yourself that self-compassion, and bringing the desire to want to play and perform back in within yourself, regardless of whether or not you do or don't get chosen. It's about finding the enjoyment in the action of doing the sport or doing the music, like doing the action, Whereas if you, again, as you say, if you're pushing yourself through, even though you want to, there's a desire there, and noticing whether how much of that actually was enjoyable, and whether or not, and trying to find out a way that you can bring it back to yourself that is enjoyable as
Mhm.
well, so as to be able to repair that process of finding something fun and then having it broken from you, having that attachment um, created into a maladaptive attunement to it. You
Mhm.
know, does that make sense?
Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
do you still do the activity, or have you been like, oh, I'm not
No,
doing it,
like this
I'm
was like prehistoric dinosaur age
not doing
when I was like a kid, no?
yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, like quite often, I should say, it's okay that life has it's this beautiful way of giving you new opportunities, different things to try and move forward. But conversely, quite often finding a way back to that inner child and the things that actually that inner child enjoyed before any expectations of performance
Mhm.
were on it is a really, really beautiful state to be able to start finding flow again as well, like connecting back into yourself. So the things that you actually felt like you enjoyed as a child before everything else happened, if you can get back into those, like for instance, for myself, I enjoyed writing poetry as a child.
Mhm.
So life has taken me away from it a little bit, but when I give myself the opportunity to connect back into being creative in that way, without expectation of it needing to go anywhere or do anything, just gently for myself to enjoy it,
Mhm.
then that's what life is all about, isn't it? For living a positive life, it's about finding those spaces to be able to connect into your own joy and your own
Mhm.
things that are completely unique to you,
Mhm.
without shame or judgment from other people. It's like
Mhm.
if we're all entitled to enjoy the things that we enjoy for ourselves. Yeah.
Mhm. Caroline, is it okay if I ask like a bit of a crude question? But
Yeah,
it's
go for it.
not judgmental or anything. Please, like, don't misunderstand or anything. So,
Yeah.
so I'm just asking. I'm not trying to put you on the spot or nothing like that. So my thing
Okay.
is like, one thing like I believe like for like athletes or any sportsman or anybody who is high performance, say like they go to the next Olympics, next Olympics, so they can have triggers and these kind of things or traumatic situations like one split of a
Mm.
second, or they don't try hard, and then these kind of things happen. So, like a person who's like helping with those can happen, like come and
Yeah.
help, no? So,
Yeah.
I'm just asking, because I really don't know. I'm not. So, for like other people, will it not complicate things more? Like when they try to pull the threads from here and there, and like start this wiring process. So I'm just asking, because I really don't know. So before it was just like, okay, you go to practice and learn, and then they see how you perform. Uh, I understand what you mean, totally. So, but would it not like complicate things? Like if people start like pulling all the strings out, uh, how then? Because like we were talking about the fun of a sport and all, but I understand this is like in competitive stages, right? But if people like dig, because like we see a lot of competition, and then the people are like now the athletes have to be high performance on every field. So it's like becoming they are trying to take it to the next level, next level, next level, next level, no? And the
Yeah.
fun part is like disappearing. I remember some sports they even have used to have like cricket, like it's like bit of a boring game, but they used to have a rest day also, right? When they had
Yeah.
this long, big old like test matches, they used to have like a rest day. Now nothing, right? And on
Yeah.
like that also they have to like blast off like as if it's a one day or a they say 2020 match. So they like now they bet on the players, and many leagues are like that, right? So doesn't it take it to more and more complication? That's one question. Please mind me for asking. And
Absolutely. Yeah. I completely appreciate, yeah, where you're coming from again, like especially when we're taking that concept of cricket and
in any
layering
sport,
in the
yeah.
expectation, or any sport, but yeah, I mean, for cricket, for example, as you
Mm,
say, layering in that expectation of the business element, essentially,
mm,
of taking a game that should be hopefully something that people enjoy and want to do, but when you've externalized it and look to monetize it, as you say, it creates that other kind of element of strain, stress, performance anxieties, the guilt and weight and pressure, to be able to, and again, because of the nature of it being a business, it's not really understanding that at the center of it is a human being, and this is about looking to find ways that we can reconnect into being a value of a person first and foremost, and that enjoyment is paramount, because when the performer is actually enjoying it, the show is better, right? And you can connect into the three states of dorsal vagal, ventral vagal, and sympathetic, to be able to, like, in your dorsal vagal flow state, you're connecting to your team better. In your ventral vagal flow state, you're going to be connecting into the action better. In the sympathetic flow state, you're connecting into the audience better, to be able to elevate the game, the entertainment, the real life activity in the moment. But again, as you say, because they've monetized it, business made it all external values, because what you've spoken about there are all external values. None of them are the person centric. And when we've got those maladaptive concepts to have to juggle, rather than being able to bring us into the flow state to actually just play the game, all of those things are different weights, rather that break us out of being able to be in flow state, to be in our perfect performance state. Is that so? As much as I understand the concept of the business element of it, and as you say, like the leverage that quite often coaches and corporations like use to say, if you're not going to be at this peak performance and not being able to come to this match and this match and this match, we're going to drop you. And I mean, that's absolutely gutting and devastating, really, for a person that's looking to achieve their dream through that, whatever it is. But this is why it's really important to be able to come back to that self-attunement, because again, it would be devastating if your identity is completely imbued in that being who you are and what you are. You're not. You are the person that is sat here right now listening to us. That is the person that's important. And understanding as well that your body physiologically needs its active times and its rest times. That's why we have a day and a night, right? Like, that's why we've got that cycle there, and allowing concepts for those other cycles. And as much as it is disappointing that to hear that these amazing athletes, these true champions, are being pushed past the brink of where it's where it's even compassionate sometimes, like I know I've worked with a cricketer that they've spoken with me about how they've jumped on a plane, gone to this place here, done the match, felt the fatigue, like tried to sleep on the plane back, and like getting here and there, and felt the anxiety and the frustration and dysregulation of traveling. And we actually worked a little bit into the somatic feeling of that guilt, and that like they actually had like a lump in their throat, because they hadn't really given themselves much compassion around the actual effort that they've put in to actually just get to the matches as well. Like, and just generally, like, it's so beautiful when we give ourselves those periods of times to reflect and to feel back into our felt sensations, because if you don't feel these they become blocks, and these are then when we have performance issues as well. So
And
that answer?
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then it's like, yeah, it's very like too demanding now. And then you see like the modern era players. Usually, if you take some sport, they could stay like those days. They could stay even like their 30s or 40s. But now,
Yeah.
new age, like they just come and go, and they have to be in their peak performance, no? And all like they have these coaches and all these people, and it's like no, they have the oxygen mask on treadmills, and they are like no. So they try to take them further and further and further. It's like race horses, right? As soon as they lose their performance, they are like either put out or in a even more worse in a sad way, no? So
Yeah.
likewise, like humans are also treated like that, and there were instances like some people or players they lost their lives because
Yeah.
of people who were betting, and that's also a big thing, right? And so they want the other people want to make them perform better and better.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Caroline, how do you think, like, what was the reason? I'm just asking, like, those days, maybe a decade ago, eh, or something like that. how did those players manage? They were performing well, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and then they stood for a long time, and they talk even like times they didn't have all this gear and everything. But you see like these players like without all this sophisticated gear and not, but they were like performing very well, no?
Yeah.
So what do you think that made them? Were they like born like that, or they mentally very strong? Because there were nobody to like fix their minds, or maybe they were, but not as prominent as now, right? Now there's for muscles a different person. No, so many things, no, so many varieties and all, protein shakes or all these things. So it's like everybody's putting in for everything and making the superhuman to perform, no? So what do you think like in their natural state made them like perform in that aspect or like that quality? Just
Again, as you say, just looking to see, like, moving back into the concept of whether or not they may or may not have had like expectation traumas, or whether or not their attunement and their self-attachment was externally validated, or whether
Mhm.
or not they're more internally validated. I think that, I mean, obviously, this century we've had such a huge shift in
Mhm.
the amount of different way our environment is and the way that we engage and interact with it. I mean, for instance, now, like 50 years ago, to find some information, you'd have to go to the library, ask the librarian,
Mhm.
read the book, and it would take you like 6 months to get to the answer, right? Whereas nowadays
Yeah.
you can find 600 answers within the touch of three buttons. Like, so
Mhm.
conceptually, the young people that we are, and even as ourselves, as we've grown and adapted to this new state of living,
Yeah.
we are bombarded with so many more options of information. So it's just created a lot more kind of ABC. Like, if you were to think of a roadmap to from having an input of needing to make a decision to actually taking the output, like, so that would be ABC. Like when you're younger, you've got fewer different things to be able to rationalize through in your nervous system to be able to get to the end action.
Mhm.
But now, as you say, these people have got so many more different routes to be able to have to go through to be able to get action, like, and that
Mhm.
indecision concept as well. So I think that it's just being compassionate for the fact that, as a species, just within this last like few decades, we are so phenomenally different that it
Mhm.
isn't really something that's fair to compare, I think, you
Mhm.
know, because
Mhm.
we're just, so just giving ourselves some grace and space and gratitude for, you know, the new things that we've learned, and for all of those amazing people that have championed trying out those new things, all of those
Mhm.
amazing scientists that have looked to explore how we can benefit from, exploring those other supplements and other ways of being able to find our peak performance. But again, just moving back into looking to find the flow, find the enjoyment within yourself, to be self-motivated rather than externally motivated,
Mhm.
is a real profound difference. And I think that is you know something that a lot of those pre-existing champions that you spoke about had more connection to be
Mhm.
more self-motivated to do. Again, I mean, thinking about the rewards that they would have had to have, like, quite often back in the day, they're doing a 9 to 5 job, and then they're doing that game as
Mhm.
pastime, as a hobby, as something
Pasta.
that they enjoy, right?
Mhm.
But now it's a profession, isn't it? So it's a
Profession.
completely different thing,
Uh-huh.
so yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, looking to find enjoyment in it is
Mhm.
really, really profound. Yeah. Amazing.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
brilliant. Yeah, it's really been exciting conversation, and I
for
hope that
sure.
everyone's enjoyed exploring this concept
Mhm.
and doing the attunement exercise as well. I appreciate getting the opportunity to go back over that. So
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Thank you so much, Caroline. And surely we'll put all Caroline's details in the post as well as the video description, so
Yeah.
anybody can contact her and see. So thank you so much, Caroline, and hopefully we'll have wonderful teachings from you again and again like this. So and may you have a wonderful day. And for all the people who are watching this also, have a brilliant day. And please take all these things she's sharing, all her wisdom, expertise, and all. And please make good use of all this. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And again, as you say, I know that we have explored some potentially delicate subjects again today. So just being mindful of how you're feeling right now, with some of those elements that we've discussed. And again, if anybody does need to connect into their local emergency services or local support networks, please do. You are valuable just for being you, and we want to be able to help you moving forward. So thank you. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Have a great day.
Bye. You too.